Welcome, everybody. Fixing up my TikTok here. Good to see you all. John Arvos is here in Chicago, usually Washington, D.C., but Chicago for the next few weeks. Hey, y'all. Say where you're all from. If you
John
would.
Arvos is here in Chicago.
And I've got
Usually Washington, D.C., but Chicago.
and I had my live running in the background. So I was like, live. That was scary. Oop. All right, guys. Let me hopefully I'm still live here. Let me get myself live on TikTok as well. All right. There we go. All right, guys. Yeah, I just came off the screen a second. Hopefully it didn't get rid of you all. Let me go live on TikTok. Boom. Boom, TikTok. Boom. All right. Let's see what we got. See who we get going on TikTok here. Ireland, New Mexico. I thought I said Machu Picchu for a second. Cameron, you're the first TikToker joining us. Thank you. All right, what do we got, guys? Hey, TikTok. Hey, Ireland. Wales. Who else we got? Massachusetts. We got a lot of Irish folks here today. Hey, guys. Good to see you all. Ashley. Ooh, another Ireland. I got a haircut. I got a haircut like 2 weeks ago. I'm actually going to get another one in 2 weeks before I go back to DC. It's still little bits of hair sticking up. But my hair looks different every day anyway. I am back. I've been back. I've been back. TikTok's just hiding me. Hi, Netherlands. Hey, Finland. Everybody, we for those who might be new, we sort of take the first couple of minutes to check in because it takes a little bit of time for folks to filter in. Hey, Wales, Mississippi, Nova Scotia. So if folks want to just introduce yourselves, we'll start at 5 after. I mean, I'm here anyway, but thank you, Chris and Ted. That was very sweet of you. But yeah, just introduce yourselves. We hang for a few minutes. Johnny's Trial. I don't know Johnny's Trial. No, I don't know what that is. Hey, Philly. Thanks for the glasses on top of my glasses. Maine, Indiana, Manhattan, Alaska, UK, Michigan, Dallas, Ohio. Although we've got a lot of Americans, of course. Thank you, Be Kind, for putting that up. Oh, I'm tired today. I don't know why. Oh, Johnny Depp's trial. No, I mean, I've seen like clips of it, but I don't know that I like Johnny Depp as an actor, but I don't know that I care. You know, I mean, I don't want to get myself in trouble either way, but I'm just not sure I care. I've only got so much caring I can do right now. And so far it's for Ukraine. Hello, Germany. What do we got here? Montreal. Oh, well, hopefully they don't on TikTok. The mods try to. The problem is we get a bunch of influx of mods on TikTok. Excuse me, the mods are always there. We get a bunch of influx of trolls, usually probably Russians at the very beginning when we're on TikTok. So sometimes it's possible people can get muted by accident. It can happen. So, but I think we've been trying to work on it because it can be difficult, like I said, to sort of moderate on both platforms. But I think YouTube's probably easier than TikTok. But on TikTok, it can be hard to moderate and sometimes not get good people caught up in it because it's just hard to tell sometimes. So, but I think the mods have been doing a better job. Yours and one other complaint was all I've gotten in the last several days, and that's significantly better. So, but they're paying attention to it. They're trying to actually, one of the things they're trying to do is just mute people if they think it's someone being disruptive. So that way the person, thank you, Hardy, for the hat. Anyway. Hopefully things are better, but the mods know. They're trying to sort of find that fine line. Hey, guys, so we're going to go one more minute here. We usually like to take about 5 minutes till 5 after the hour for folks just to ramble in on both TikTok and YouTube. I've got TikTok up there. I've got YouTube down here. This way I can see all of your comments, although I do a much better job. I am live. Yes, I am in Chicago right now instead of DC, but I am live. I tell you, live. It's alive. Norwich. What else we got here? Harvey Kittle, Sweden. Nicolina, good to see you again. Ruski free. I don't mind Russians, but Ruski free troll zone, yes. Russians are fine. Trolls are not fine. Lower Alabama. Mom is good. Mom had a little. What do you call it? Crown came out the other day, so she was at the dentist today. Otherwise, Mom is good. Ooh, Femme Fatale, you did make it to a live. Although I think you made it to one before. I remember your name. That sounds familiar to me. All right, I saw that. Thank you. The little crown of flowers. Norway, Ireland. Anybody who's new, we take the first 5 minutes just for folks to kind of filter in and say where you're from and all, and then I start. And actually, I think we're at 5 after now, so I will start. Thank you all. I'm John Aravosis, normally in Washington, D.C., in Chicago at the moment, visiting my mom. And the way we run the show is about the first 20 minutes or so, I do a news rundown. I tell you what I think are the most important stories of the day regarding Ukraine and Russia, why they matter. And then we jump in to a Q&A, question and answer, which goes for about 45 minutes till quarter after the hour, so quarter after the next hour. And then at the end, we hang out for about 10 or 15 minutes and just hang out. And people have actually enjoyed that too. For the last 15 minutes, we just hang and talk about recipes and anything else. So as always, make sure you follow me. Make sure you like my content. Make sure you like other people's contents on TikTok, on YouTube, etc. When you click the like button, the subscribe button, it helps us a lot to get our content out there. So I appreciate that. The questions, when we get to the question and answer period on TikTok, submit your questions via the Q&A button that's at the bottom of your screen. That way, all your questions are queued in a row, and it's really easy. Queued. God, I actually said that. That's an English word, isn't it? To queue? I think so. Are lined up in a Q&A. I'm thinking queued. Are lined up in a row, and it's easy for me to sort of see them on YouTube. You guys know how to do it. Use the comment box at the bottom. I would still say if you've got questions, they're probably best to post when we get to the Q&A on YouTube. Otherwise, they'll scroll by and I won't see them for 20 minutes. Unless they're the super chat questions, then of course you're welcome to put them up, because I always promise with the super chat questions, I will get to them immediately, or at least the next topic on the list if I'm going through the news like I am right now. So suffice it to say, that's it. I also try to do a shout out when you guys buy those funky little things on TikTok, because I appreciate you giving me a donation to my work. Same thing on YouTube when you do the super chat and the super stickers. And if I miss any of those, the mods are here to help me to make sure I didn't miss thanking you guys or getting to a question. So let's dive in. Top story. Well, there's only a couple top stories. One of the top stories today, not a ton of news actually, but nothing bad, nothing too good. The former Marine Trevor Reed was released from Russia, traded for a Russian that we had imprisoned here. Shirley, thanks for that. And what's interesting to me with that, I mean, all well and good, glad for him, glad for his family, but it is interesting to me that in the midst of all this mess with Russia, that we were able to broker some kind of a deal with them and them with us to have a prisoner trade and get these guys released. That's interesting. And it's actually very positive because honestly, relations aren't that good right now. And we just called Putin a war criminal and genocidal and everything else. And we're still able to broker a deal. It's very important. And in diplomacy, that matters. And frankly, even for this war, at some point, this war will have to have a negotiated peace. Even if that negotiated peace means one side gets beaten badly, which I hope happens, you know which side I hope gets beaten badly, you still then have to literally end the fighting, and that happens with the treaty. So any case, I'm just glad to see that we were able to do that with Russia. Thank you for those little lights on TikTok. I did see them. The 3 border attacks, or not even border attacks, 3 attacks across the border in Russia overnight. Very interesting, this story. It appears that Ukraine did it again. They went into Russian territory, did 3 attacks. At least 2 of the attacks appeared to have worked. One might have been shot down by a Russian anti-aircraft gun or whatever it is. But really interesting that one attack was maybe 20 miles over the border. I think it might have blown up some more ammunition, things like this. The second attack was 75 miles over the border. That might have been a drone, and they think it was shot down by Russian anti-aircraft guns, something like that. The third attack was 200 miles into Russia. And I have no idea. Thank you for the little lights on TikTok. I have no idea how they pulled it off. I've been asking around trying to find what Ukraine has that can go that far. I mean, I don't know if they've got any drones that can go that far. I don't know that they've got any missiles that can even go that far. They got something. I'm not sure what it is, but the reason I say they've got something, thank you, Lola, for that, is when the Ukrainians were asked about the 3 attacks, they made kind of a cryptic statement and then said something about karma. And well, Russia, they didn't say karma's a biatch, which we say in English, but they just said, oh, it's karma. What do you do? Basically kind of admitting that they were involved. I'm very intrigued. Now, another thing to consider with this, which is interesting, is Ukraine did this. They apparently did 3 attacks within Russia, up to 200 miles in, which is really pretty significant, right? I mean, that's deep in Russian territory. Right after Putin threatened, if you saw yesterday's show, I mentioned that Putin had threatened that Ukraine had better stop invading Russian territory, or Putin was going to go after federal government buildings in Kyiv, which he hasn't done yet. He hasn't blown up the federal ministries, the offices, the presidency, things like that. Well, Ukraine turns around And instead of doing their normal 1 or 2 attacks inside Russia, they did 3. I mean, so it was basically a big FU to Russia. And I just think that's very interesting in terms of seeing what Ukraine's response was. And like I said, just their capacity to go that deep. Very, very interesting to me. The Pentagon update today, a couple of things. There isn't any huge news. There's lots of updates on things. Nothing terrible, like I said, which is good. The Pentagon update today, the U.S. has delivered half of the 90 howitzers destined for Ukraine. That's huge. Those are very important artillery for the Ukrainians. The U.S. has trained about 50 military advisors on how to use the howitzers. These are Ukrainian military advisors who will then go back and train others in Ukraine how to use them. And the next batch of military advisors are already in training now. So that's good news too, because it shows that basically we're not just training the men how to use it. We're training the trainers who can now go across the country and train everybody. So that stuff's flowing great. Timothy, thank you for that. Dupuis. The second point, the last point on this list from the Defense Department I thought was very interesting. It says the U.S. has appropriate strategic nuclear deterrent in place. And that was the final point. I read that and I went, okay, that was an interesting point 3 just to bury on the list. Basically, the Pentagon said today, we have sufficient nuclear weapons in Europe to deter Russia from doing anything stupid. I don't think this is new. I do think what is new is this is the first time I've seen the U.S. respond with the way I've wanted us to respond. Glad the mic is sounding okay today. I hear on TikTok. I was very careful to make sure everything was plugged in today well. But what's interesting to me about that is I have not often seen the U.S. publicly say, hey, Vlad, we've got nukes too. And, hey, Sweden, good to see you. We've got nukes too, and, we're not that worried about it. We're going to you deter us, we deter you. Nobody's going to use nuclear weapons. But it was interesting to see them say that. Now, I did do a quick search online and saw that we've got the U.S. has approximately 100 to 150 nuclear gravity bombs stationed in 5 countries in Europe: Belgium, Germany, the Netherlands, Italy, and Turkey. I knew we had nuclear weapons in Europe anyway, but point there is we've got nukes, they got nukes. We all can destroy the world, so Putin needs to stop with the threats, which, of course, he did again today and last night. I may have it on my list here. I don't even remember what the latest one was. Oh, yeah. The latest one was Putin threatened immediate strikes against countries that intervene in Russia's war in Ukraine. And it was just like, dude, go away. There's a wonderful cartoon. Oh, I was going to put it on TikTok. I forgot. There's a wonderful cartoon I shared on Twitter that has Putin. It's like a kid in school. Putin standing there and he's holding up a picture of a nuclear weapon. And the teacher says, yes, Vlad, yes, Vladimir, that's the 9th time you've come to class, or the 9th week you've come to class and told us you have nuclear weapons. We understand. And it's just that anyway, you get it. I've talked about this before. I think Putin's threats are ridiculous and the nuclear threat has been ridiculous. We're threatening every week. And at some point it becomes, yeah, we know you've got nukes. Grow up already. We've got nukes too. France seized 3 villas belonging to oligarchs in France, which is very interesting. The corrupt Russian billionaires tied to Putin. Zelensky was invited to the G20 summit in Indonesia in November. This is interesting because the G20 summit is summit of the big and powerful economies of the world. Russia is included. There was a lot of talk about excluding Russia. Thank you for my Borg implant there. I think it was Pamela, maybe. Russia, there's been talk about excluding Russia in large part because, let's face it, what Western leader can be seen doing that big, they all get together, all 20 of them together and stand together in a photo op. Who wants to do that with Vladimir Putin? Nobody wants to be standing up there with Vladimir Putin at this point. Now, it's not clear Putin will be uninvited. Russia said that Putin plans on attending. Well, now Indonesia, that's hosting it, thank you for the crown. Indonesia, that's hosting it, is going to be has invited Putin. Putin has invited Zelensky, which is great. The Ukrainian president. So that's good news. It'll also make it awfully awkward for Putin that he's there. So good on all accounts, and maybe Putin won't even go. Other good news: European Union dropped import duties on Ukrainian products for a year. That basically means tariffs and things that would normally raise the price of Ukrainian products going to Europe or going to the rest of Europe, because they're part of Europe, would normally raise the price. Now the price will be lowered because the tariffs are going to be forgiven for a year. Huge news on that account. More on that gas cutoff. So I mentioned yesterday, thank you for the hat. I mentioned yesterday how Russia announced that as of as of today, they cut off gas shipments, natural gas shipments to Bulgaria and Poland. And it was a little strange. And people were like, what are you doing? And basically, and actually my friend Marion had weighed in yesterday, and I didn't even get Marion's second point of her argument, but she's right. This could very easily be basically Russia's argument of, you can't fire me, I quit, right? Because Europe keeps talking about how they want to cut off Russia's energy imports to Europe because Russia's making a ton of money from the Europeans. And this could have been Russia's way, thank you for that, rigorous, I'll call you Rigor, of Russia's way of basically saying, well, I'm going to cut you off first. Now, a couple interesting things with this. The Poland, and this is what I thought was happening. Because remember I said, like, if I were Russia, I would try to find something that might have some impact in Europe, but wouldn't have an impact on me. So Poland and Bulgaria consume around 2% of the gas that Russia sends to Europe. So of all the gas sales that Russia does to Europe, only 2% is Poland and Bulgaria. So by doing this, thank you, Rigorous. By doing this, Russia was only cutting off 2% of its gas sales. But they were trying to impact two countries in a big way. Now, did they? Kind of hard to say. Poland was already had announced it wasn't going to sign a new contract with the Russian energy contractor, with the gas contractor, Gazprom. So right there, it means Poland was going to end their contract. So probably not a big deal for Poland. Bulgaria is a relatively small customer. I know they were talking to the Greeks today, and the Greeks are going to help them make up some of the gas supply. But Bulgaria is saying, at least currently, they're not worried about it. They may be trying to put on a pretty face. I forgot what the exact number is. Do I have it here? I don't have the exact number here, but Bulgaria is a little worried. But they're, I mean, not worried. Bulgaria, I think it's going to have a bigger impact, but they're putting on a pretty face. They're not going to worry. Now, one thing that was interesting with this was the rest of the European countries, because if Russia cuts off gas to the rest of the European countries, it'll have a significant impact on the economy in Europe. The impact may not happen until the end of the year. In Germany, for example, natural gas imports are very important from Russia, will have a huge impact on the economy, but Germany has enough reserves, apparently, of natural gas that they've built up that they could go, if Russia could cut them off tomorrow, and they could go to the end of the year and they'd still be okay. But by the end of the year, then they'd be in trouble, because then factories might have to shut down. I mean, all sorts of bad things could happen at that point. So let's see what happens with this. But thank you for that on TikTok, Pamela. Let's see what happens with this. But it's not an immediate crisis, but Russia's definitely upping the ante. Now, the final thing I'll say, I still think you get into a weird situation because Russia cuts off Europe, then Russia's not getting Europe's money. And that's a huge deal for Russia. So I wonder whether Russia's just kind of, actually, what I think Russia's doing right now, at least, Russia's bluffing. They hit Bulgaria and Poland because Bulgaria and Poland only eat, 2% of they're only going to have to give up 2% of their sales to Europe and Bulgaria and Poland. But they're threatening the other countries, Germany in particular, saying, oh, Germany, I see you're getting better. You're talking about giving those Gepard tank, anti-aircraft tanks to Ukraine. Your Germany was doing something else too. They approved some other sales or something. You're getting a little too helpful to Ukraine. Just remember, we can cut off all of your gas. And they're trying to bluff Germany into backing off again so that maybe Russia doesn't cutting off the gas. I think it's a bluff because I don't think Russia can afford it. So there you go. Switzerland's behaving badly again. Well, Switzerland agreed to adhere to more sanctions, but at the same time, they're still refusing to let Germany supply the ammunition for those tanks that I told you about, these Gepard, I guess, or what if Gepard? Is that an animal like leopard or something in Germany? I don't know, but Gepard. But Switzerland is refusing to let them provide the ammunition, which is made originally in Switzerland. The Brazilians today said that they had ammunition that works for the Gepards and that they were at least considering or willing to ship it to Ukraine. So I don't know what the status is. That it wasn't it's a done deal, but it was we're happy to offer it. So that could be great news, or that is great news if it goes through. As I said, Putin made more threats, but it's Tuesday, it's Wednesday, whatever. It's Wednesday. Putin makes more. He'll be making more threats tomorrow. I mean, whatever. Russia. This was kind of a weird story. It's just worth bringing in, though. Russia claimed that the Ukrainians were secretly planning to annex Kuban, a region in Russia. Now, thank you for the crown there. And I do see your question, Wendy. I'll get to it in a sec. The Kuban story is really weird. Russia is trying to whip up further at home and go, oh my God, look what they're doing. Now we found a secret plan. Ukraine was going to attack Russian territory. Oops, we had somebody for Ukraine. Hello, Ukraine on TikTok. I will stop for that. Don't know who you are, but welcome. Everybody on TikTok, give some, Lola, thank you for that. Let's give some sunflowers on TikTok for our Ukrainian guest who just jumped in. You can do it on YouTube too, even though this person's on TikTok, but we like to sort of take a moment when we have Ukrainian friends visit and send them sunflowers, which is the national flower of Ukraine. So thanks for that, guys. Yeah, this is nice. It's a cheetah. Okay, thank you. A gepard is a cheetah in German. I thought it was something funny. I heard gepard and I'm thinking leopard, but similar animals. But yes. Oh, and Ukrainian at TikTok, you're getting lots of sunflowers as well in my YouTube. I do a YouTube simultaneously with this, and you have mini sunflowers raining on you. So glad to welcome you guys. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So the Russians are claiming they're trying to scare the Russian people. They've discovered a secret plot that the Ukrainians were going to invade Russia and steal this plot of land, a region called Kuban, and annex it to Ukraine. And when you see it on the map, there's no way the Ukrainians could get it. It's basically this region that's kind of south and east of Ukraine. Okay. If you look at the map of Ukraine, you know where Crimea is. Crimea is that peninsula going into the south, into the Black Sea. And that's the land that the Russians stole from the Ukrainians back in 2014, right? So right to the east of it, across the water, is this area Kuban. But the problem is it's surrounded by like Russia. And the only way the Ukrainians could get it is by sea, but the Ukrainians don't have a navy really. So how are the Ukrainians going to do an amphibious landing to take this Russian territory that when they don't have a navy and it's surrounded by Russia? There's just, basically people are saying it's sort of the biggest lie they've seen Russia put out there because they didn't even bother picking a territory that at least was bordering Ukraine. So anyway, just crazy stuff, but just to sort of show you what's going on with Russia. Let me jump in. I've actually only got 2 more stories left, actually, and they're feel-good stories. How's that for a weird day today? See, we didn't even have a bunch of bad news today, but I've got 2 questions here already. Let me jump in on the super chat questions, and then I'll get to my feel-good stories, since that's the deal for super chat questions. We always jump in. What do you think about the new F around and find out? Oh boy, I don't know what that means. EFF around and find out 40 Est yesterday in Germany, led by the U.S. Wendy, I don't know what those abbreviations mean. F around and find out 40 Est. I have no idea what that means. Wendy, I mean, don't pay more, but if you could explain further down to just give a few more words there. I just have no idea. I have no idea what that means, what that sentence means. If you could explain, I'd appreciate it. And actually, if the mods can help me too, I'm going to go on to the next question. But when it comes up, if you can tag it or something for me just so I can see it. I wonder if you guys can star questions. Let me know if you can star questions. Actually, that would be very interesting. If you're, because let me rephrase this. There is on TikTok, for me on YouTube, there's a little thing I can click a star and it saves the question on the right. So it's a starred question. I actually can see it. So if you're able to do that with somebody's comment you want me to see, that's another way of me possibly seeing it. But I don't know if that's just on my end. Bear Down, Arizona. If Brazil donates ammo or equipment to Ukraine, would that cause a major issue when it comes to the sustainability of the BRICS? Well, I mean, that's interesting. Okay, we're getting into some major economic stuff here. The BRICS, as I recall, would be Brazil, Russia. Is it Indonesia, China? I'm thinking the big sort of big developing economies, or India would be India. It wouldn't be Indonesia, of course. It's India. The big developing economies. The thing is, well, I'm not familiar enough with what the BRICS do cooperatively and collaboratively. I'm used to people talking them just in terms of investment terms, like the big 4 to invest in or whatever, right? So I don't know enough of what they actually do working together. If they actually work out deals together as allies in some way, whether economically or otherwise, then yeah, if Brazil is helping the Ukrainians and giving them weapons, it's got to cause a problem. It has to cause a problem. I mean, I would think so. I would think so. Of course it is. They'd be pissed at him, and Russia is vengeful, so Russia would strike back in some way. But as I said, I don't know collaboratively what those 4 countries do together that Russia would now say, nope, we're not joining you anymore. Interesting, though. It isn't. I'm surprised anyway, because I thought Brazil with this kind of, I don't know if it's left wing, right wing, whatever it is, government, that they would be bad about following. They would be bad about sort of jumping on with this, but surprisingly, they are. Oh, the meeting of defense leaders in Germany. I'm sorry. Okay, let me go back here. Okay, let me go back to Wendy's question again. Wendy. Oh, okay. So the big four. So basically, the 40 military leaders, but there's some crossover. It's not just the one leader per country of the NATO countries joined in Germany yesterday at the Ramstein Air Base, U.S. Air Base. It included the U.S. Secretary of Defense and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. So we had two. That's why I'm saying 40. It's probably like the 30 NATO countries, but a couple of it had duplicates, led by the U.S. Was it non-NATO? Okay, I didn't realize it was non-NATO countries. That's interesting. Okay, so that probably explains why it was more than 30. As I said yesterday, it's great news. One particular thing that's very good. Okay, a couple things. Coming out of the meeting, they said they're going to be meeting every month. I don't know if they meant they're going to get together every month or going to do virtually. But basically, our defense leaders of these 30 plus countries are going to get together every month to strategize on how we can better help Ukraine. That's great because that kind of coordination is important. There's also going to be coordination because they've set up an office, an operating center, I think they called it, and it's going to have at least 15 staff to coordinate aid going to Ukraine. My guess is you've got sort of our logistics of aid going, different planes, everything else, and frankly, just keeping track of it so each country can see what they need. So all of that could be really important. I can move my mic lower. All of that could be really important for Ukraine. And one interesting thing I read last night that I thought was very interesting. Oh, wait, which mic should be closer? This mic? Oh, for you guys? Oh, I moved it down. Okay, here we go. I will put it there. That should be sufficient if it's on my lapel. What is really interesting about this is because they're meeting every month, because they've got this ongoing office now is coordinating it. What some of the analysts were saying is this makes things a lot better for Ukraine. Thank you for the dog on TikTok. Makes things a lot better for Ukraine because Ukraine now no longer has to worry. And I mean, they have to worry a little bit, but they don't have to worry about not having enough weapons, not having enough ammunition, because they know more ammunition is coming. They know more weapons are coming. Whereas Russia has to sit here. Okay, good. I'm glad you guys can hear it. Russia has to sit here and worry where are their weapons coming from next week. If all of their tanks get blown up, where are they getting more tanks from? Right? They're having a very hard time because of the sanctions. They're gonna have a very hard time making new weapons. Whereas Ukraine, it's not an unlimited supply, but still, Ukraine sounds like they're going to be able to get more stuff next month, more stuff the month after. That's what NATO is ensuring with this continuity of this meeting every month, having an office actually set up to facilitate. So that unties Ukraine's hands a little. I'm making this too long of a point, but bottom line, what it means is if Ukraine wants to do something next week and they want to do some kind of attack or whatever, they don't have to sit there and go, we could do that attack, but it's going to require these tanks and these howitzers and these drones, and they're the only ones we've got. And if we use them, then we've got fewer drones and fewer howitzers to use next time or whatever. Well, if they know the U.S. is constantly giving them more and NATO's constantly giving them more, they'll be less worried about using them now because they know they can get more later. Whereas Russia has to sit here and think they've got limited weapons. What do they do? So I think that's probably the most important part coming out of it. Because at first, when I heard about it, I was like, okay, this is nice. What's the point of the meeting? And I didn't realize initially that it was for that kind of follow-up, which is great. The two feel-good stories, well, feel-good-ish. 80% of the animals at the Kharkiv Zoo in northeastern Ukraine have been evacuated to safety. That's 4,000 of the 5,000 animals at the zoo. 100 animals were killed by Russian shelling, and 5 zoo staffers were killed getting the animals out. So kind of scary there. But amazing job these guys did. Going there, as I said, 80% of the animals, which is 4,000 of the 5,000 animals, have been saved, which is amazing. The other feel-good story, and then I will jump to, was it Wendy? Yep, Wendy, I see your story. I've got it started, so don't forget it. A 6-year-old girl named Solomia, which is funny because we have Solomia who comes on TikTok with us, I think. So I remember I was saying Solomia was such an interesting name because I don't think of it as being Ukrainian. We got another Solomia. Solomia, and the last name looked like, thank you for that. The last name looked like it's Root, except R-E-U-T. I'm going to say Reut since it's Ukrainian, but it seemed like a funny name for Ukrainian. It sounds German or something, but Root from Dnipro raised $160 playing her recorder, basically the instrument looks like a flute, playing her recorder on a street corner in Ukraine. She got $165 in donations. I should say the equivalent of that. Hang on a second. Thank you. Thank you. I just saw the message in Greek. Thank you. That's very sweet of you for mommy and the dog. She played her little recorder on the street. She got $165. Her goal was to raise money for the Ukrainian military, and she wants to buy them bulletproof vests. Well, she raised enough money to buy half a bulletproof vest. Her mother went on social media and was able to get the money for the second half, and now they're trying to raise more money so they can buy more vests. People have already asked. I have no idea if they've got some kind of a funding thing up on social media, because I would love to fund this kid's thing. I'm going to keep looking for it. My guess is somebody's going to help them set something up that we all then know is real, that we can share, because pretty freaking cool. I just thought that was incredibly sweet. Now that's it for the news. See, I told you it was a short news day, but a good news day. Wendy, you had another question here. The U.S. head of sanctions on Russia is taking a leave of absence. I don't think I saw that. Sounds scary. It does sound a little weird. It's an odd time to be doing that. My guess is that, okay, without knowing the story, but she's saying the person who's in charge of, well, I shouldn't say in charge of U.S. sanctions, because I doubt there's one person, but maybe it's a coordinator at the White House or something, is taking a leave of absence. Thank you, Pamela, for that. My suspicion is that it could be something where they found out something bad about the person. It could be, I don't know, who knows, but something embarrassing the person did, God knows what. And in order for the person not to become a story and detract from Ukraine, they're either resigning or taking a leave of absence. That's my guess, but I have no idea what the story is. No, I don't think it sounds scary. It sounds more like the person got into some trouble and they're trying to save Biden a little bit of embarrassment. That's my guess. Okay, Harvey, I see you. Make sure I didn't miss anybody else. Okay, Javi. Hello, Javi. Thoughts on Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission? Thank you for stating that, because I did not know who Ursula was. Stating the days of fossil fuels in the European Union is coming to an end. Interesting. Could be planning to reduce natural gas, or will dependent countries like Germany prevent this? Well, there's a big debate going on, obviously in the EU, about getting their dependent. Well, here's the thing. We know the EU has been talking, hi, WHD, etc., on TikTok. We know that the Europeans have been talking about trying to cut back their dependence. Penfield, appreciate that, on Russian energy. Cutting back their dependence on energy overall, right, fossil fuels, is a whole question entirely, and I'm not so up on Europe's efforts there. But I do know, for example, that Germany has gotten much better. They announced this yesterday, that they've really limited their dependence on Russian oil, for example, down to like 12. They were at 33%, and now 22% of their oil is from Russia, which is a big deal. Thanks, Pamela, for that. As far as getting rid of fossil fuels entirely, that's a whole other question. I'd be surprised that they're able to do that yet. Or let me say this: they can't do it yet. Even with natural gas is the real problematic one. I was reading natural gas. They were saying something like until 2030 or something, they wouldn't be able to get away from natural gas. I wonder. I was talking with a cousin of mine at lunch today, and I wonder, with regards to Russia and the need to become energy independent from Russia, also to 2027. Okay, Jules. Yeah, I saw 2030 today, but same idea. It's going to take years to get off of natural gas. I wonder whether, and I know this is a polemical topic here, but whether in order for Europe and America to have energy independence, for them not to be reliant on Russia and other suppliers who can do what Russia's doing now to Europe, blackmailing them, and to help with climate change, whether everyone's not going to have to start looking a little more seriously at nuclear again. And my cousin and I were talking about it today, and I was saying, I've been wondering that too, because on the left, it's not a very popular topic, obviously, but it would be anyway, I don't know. I just think it'd be very interesting, because I don't know how we're going to get off of all these fossil fuels. Anyway, thanks for that, grandma. Not my grandma, but grandma. And was it NATO boy? I gotta put on my glasses so I can see who you guys are. Taper, thanks for that on TikTok. I'm just throwing it out there, but I think more as an issue to watch, because I think I'd be curious whether we're going to see attitudes changing on nuclear at some point, where people are saying, you know what, how else are we going to get away from all of these fossil fuels, and how else are we going to get away from Russia? UK is going back to nuclear. Interesting. I thought I saw something like that. France, I thought France was becoming, people on YouTube are starting to reply to that. I thought France, I saw was thinking of moving away. Maybe the plants were all getting old at this point. Taper Dan, thanks for that. But I just, wind and solar is great, but it's going to take a while to get there. Boris Johnson is investing in nuclear fuel. Yeah. Let's see what happens. But and in America, depending politically where you are, like Democrats are not super big thrilled about that. Brenda, thank you for that. Are not super thrilled about nuclear, but let me put it this way. If I had to pick a side, I'm more interested in addressing climate change so we don't destroy the planet than I am worrying about nuclear energy. I'm more worried. Let me put it this way. I'm more worried about climate change than I am nuclear energy. Nuclear energy worries me. I don't want to live next to a nuclear plant, but I'd rather not destroy the earth forever. So there you go. France is 90% now. I mean, France was always a good 70%. I just wasn't sure whether France was finally, like, I know a lot of the plants were getting old, and I wasn't sure whether they were kind of going to try to move away or what I thought I read something a while back that France was going to try to move away or something. Maybe I'm wrong from the nukes, but I know France, oh my God, ever since I was studying in France in the 80s, France's power, I want to say, was 70% nuclear. I mean, huge amount. Fusion, yeah, if it ever takes off, right? Let me jump in on a TikTok question, you guys, since we've been asking some YouTube questions here. There's been Lynn's the Ginge is just asking about what Anonymous has been up to. They had another big data breach or data unload they put out today. I think it was energy industry in Russia. I didn't see the significance of it, so I didn't mention it. Maybe there's something interesting in there, but I was kind of like, energy, okay, whatever. But that's sort of the latest I saw. They had another big data dump of another hack they did. J-Rod, we might as well talk about this. J-Rod's asking, what's up with the nuclear threat from Putin? Putin seems every day to be making nuclear threats, and it's very weird. And, he's got Lavrov, the foreign minister, doing it. He's doing it. It's weird. And they're bluffing. And I think he's trying to rally people at home by talking about, it could be nuclear war, Russia, come together. Because it's sort of this old standard, old faithful argument in Russia to talk about nuclear war. It's going to be nuclear war if the Americans aren't stopped, and this kind of stuff. And they did it during the Soviet days too. Big argument during the Soviet days. Nuclear war, oh my God. And they're also trying to scare us. And even though I think it's laughable they're trying to scare us, it scares people enough because, you asked the question. I've had other people ask the question and go, they tested this missile. Should we be scared? They keep talking. They talked the other day about nuking, the UK. Thank you, Setterman, for that. The UK, should we be scared? So clearly it's agitating people. It's getting people at least worried. And that's what they want. He's trying to basically scare us into going back again. Thank you. Into going back again and maybe back to where we were 2 months ago, where we're kind of like, I'm not sure. Maybe we should help Ukraine, but not help them too much. Whereas right now we're really helping Ukraine. But clearly, as I quoted that Republican congressman yesterday, I feel like at the beginning, we were trying to ensure that Ukraine lost slowly, meaning they didn't lose right away, but we weren't really going to help them win. And now we're trying to help Ukraine actually win, which is a big deal. So I think things have changed in that regard. But from the nuclear thing, yeah, I think thank you, Grandma. You're on a roll today. I saw the previous one too. Thank you. I think he's trying to scare all of us. I think he's just trying to scare all of us. He's trying to get the peace movement or whomever in the West to speak up and start saying, maybe we're doing too much for Ukraine. This is really dangerous. Putin's threatening us. I think he's bluffing because he can't afford to, We've got nuclear, as I said, we've got nuclear weapons too. We've got most of them, not most, but a lot of them on submarines. The Russians cannot get to our nuclear submarines. And in case of a nuclear war, the submarines are fine. The submarines will survive. And therefore, those submarines would attack Russia in return. That's just the way it is. There'd be no there'd be no chance for them to hit our subs. Meaning if Putin launched missiles at us first, we would be able to respond. If we launched missiles at Putin first, he would be able to respond. Both sides know that nuclear war is not going to happen. I mean, unless some horrible accident, mistake happens. Otherwise, I don't see that happening. Tim, I just wanted to bring this up since you brought it up. Tia Crossley brought up a Reuters story about the global sanctions person. So Joe Biden's deputy national security advisor, Dalip Singh, a key architect of global sanctions, plans to take an extended leave of absence. Interesting. Dalip Singh, his deputy national security advisor, that's a big deal. That's a high position in the White House. Key architect of the global sanctions is important. The only thing what I'd want to know now that I'm seeing the story like this, for example, could it be somebody who wants to work on political campaigns because they're worried that Democrats are going to lose the House and Senate potentially this fall? Our congressional elections, the current polls suggest, thank you for that, suggest that that Democrats are going to lose. Doesn't mean they will, but because polls change, but that he's going to work on the campaigns maybe. I don't know. It depends what he's done otherwise. Or it's possible something went wrong and he said, no, the only thing I will say this, if he did something wrong and was sort of caught and they're trying to not be an embarrassment, you wouldn't take an extended leave of absence. You'd quit. You would resign for personal reasons, to spend time with your family, something like that. This doesn't have as much of the stink of scandal around it because you don't have an extended leave of absence for scandal. You leave when there's scandal. So not sure. I'm surprised they're not mentioning it, though. That's meaning what the actual story is. That's a little weird. Let me look here. My headaches are back today, and I'm not happy. I was doing very well with my little headaches not hitting. No news on those stranded in Mariupol, other than Russia keeps talking about letting them escape and then not letting them escape. There was the latest little story with that was that supposedly Putin told the Secretary General of the United Nations, who's the head of the United Nations, when he visited Putin this week, he visited Russia and Ukraine. And supposedly Putin told him, oh, yes, we will, I will agree to a United Nations corridor to let the innocent civilians escape from Mariupol. And after the United Nations said it, Putin came out and said, I never said that. So he's doing his same games. He's doing his same games of trying to harm the civilians and trying to play psychological games with the civilians. It's really bad. It's just, these are not good people we're dealing with here. The Moldova thing is so weird. I don't think there's any real news on Moldova. They're still agitating. There may have been even something else taking place. The whole thing makes no sense. I'll bring this up just because Brienne asks for it. Brienne Tourne, Brienne Tourneau. I'm sorry. Or Brian. Oh, Brian. I'm trying to read these names. They're written like this big. Brian Letourneau. There we go. Sorry, I'm reading Brienne Letourneau. Do you think USA has CIA-backed ops in Ukraine? I would think that the US and the Brits and maybe some others are doing things behind the scenes that we don't know about in Ukraine. I'm sure we are. I mean, I haven't heard about it either, but I'm sure we are. Could be CIA, it could be military, who knows? But I would guess that there's somebody there trying to help them. We know we're helping them with intelligence. A lot of stories have come out in the last day, and I've been a little surprised, the amount of story out there, because I almost feel like it's a bit too much, but it's already public. So what do? I'm saying on my end, my sharing it with you isn't revealing any big secret because it's already out there. But the U.S. in the early days of the war, we apparently gave the Ukrainians intelligence that let them shoot down a Russian transport plane that had hundreds of troops on board. I mean, I read that. I was like, woo, man, damn. We've also, this came out a couple days ago, excuse me, my dry lips. We also gave them repeated intelligence of the Russians preparing to bomb air bases and things like this, and airports and airfields, so that it gave Ukrainians time to basically fly their planes off before the Russians attacked. And this was one of the ways, a big way the Ukrainians were able to keep their Air Force intact, was because we kept telling them, I guess probably our intercepts, our signals intelligence, but meaning our eavesdropping we do on the Russians, that we found out what their plans were. We kept telling the Ukrainians in advance. But boy, when I read the thing about the plane going down, I was like, woo, I would not think that we're the ones doing the attacks in Russia. I think that would be a little too far. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're doing secret things inside that are helping them. Sure. Oh, wait, Wendy. That's the guy he's been threatened and house broken into. Oh, God. I didn't know that. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, wow. Okay, something weird's going on then. Okay, then you know what? Then it wasn't. I'm sorry. This is the White House guy you're saying. Okay, then it's as I said. The fact that it's a leave of absence means it's nothing he did. It means something creepy is going on, and they're investigating, and probably for his safety and his family's safety, they're moving him somewhere safe. That is so screwed up. Wow. Okay, that's really screwed up. That could be the Russians. It also could be some lunatic fringe person. In our country, we've got them too, sadly. But wow, that is really screwed up. Wow, I did not know that. Shauna, you agree with Tia. Dilip was on a 60 Minutes interview. He was extremely integral in the sanctions with the last Ukraine fight, and now, wow. Okay. If that's the same thing that Wendy was just saying, the same guy that his house was broken into, I mean, this could be a Russian operation against the guy. It could be. Again, I doubt they would try to hurt him, but a psychological operation just to freak the hell out of him. Wow. I did not see that story. Wow. Okay, that's really scary. So I'm just scrolling to see what else you guys have. Wow. Okay, that's really creepy. Wow. All right. Back to a TikTok question here. Boop. And remember, on TikTok, you can submit your questions at the bottom with the Q&A feature. Yes, Andrew, Russia did get the guy that was in the space satellite. In the space station, probably 3 weeks ago now. 2 Russian cosmonauts came down, and they brought an American with them, and they landed in Kazakhstan, I believe. But everybody came down safely. The Russians, basically no longer threatened they were going to leave him up there. So that was good. I'm assuming that's the one you mean. It was a big story about 3 weeks ago. I don't think Russia wants to declare it. Is Russia declaring war on NATO? I don't think they will, because Russia can't afford to declare war on NATO. Russia would probably love to have war on NATO just because they'd be able to tell their public, oh, we're not at war with Ukraine. We're fighting NATO, and sure, we could beat Ukraine, but NATO, and also to rev the public up, because NATO's the big bad. America's the big bad evil place, right? So saying to rev people up at home to support the war. The problem is Russia isn't winning this war against Ukraine, right? I mean, let's see where it goes from here. But Russia's having a hard time with Ukraine. Russia can't afford to have NATO get involved too. They're going to lose. I mean, they're just going to lose. It's not clear they're going to win now, but they certainly can't win against all of NATO too. So I think Russia would be insane to drag NATO into the war, no matter how he thinks it helps him at home. They're just going to lose. B. Madsen, China is very quiet these days. Absolutely. They seem to be biding their time, watching. What are your thoughts on them these days? Very much so. One interesting story in that regard is in the last day or so, the story came out that, and I'm going to try to get the name right, DJI, which is a huge Chinese electronics, whatever company that produces drones, among other things, I'm guessing, but drones is their big export. And I know the Ukrainians were looking at the drones. The Russians were using their drones. And the company finally said they were halting all their drone sales because it went against their ethos or some such thing. Actually, Starry Night, that's exactly what I'm talking about now. That's very funny. Starry Night just put in responding to this, that, yeah, the Chinese drone company, I don't know about pulling out of China, but they basically said they're pulling out of, they're not going to sell anymore to Russia and Ukraine. They're going to analyze the situation because they don't want their weapons being involved in conflict, this kind of thing. And the Russians have definitely been using them in conflict. The Ukrainians, I don't know, but my guess is the Ukrainians were probably buying some as well and using them to, sort of reconnoiter the artillery, spotting the artillery and then saying, that's where it is, go bomb it, right? What is interesting is that it's a Chinese company. You would think a Chinese company, because this is, China isn't exactly a democracy, they would simply tell the company, you're going to help our friend Russia, and that's the way it's going to go. And you're going to cut off sales to Ukraine, but you're not going to cut off sales to Russia. So the fact that they included both was shocking. Oh, there you go. Yeah, sorry, Starry. That's exactly it. Yeah, they pulled up, but they said they're pulling out of. They're not going to sell to Russia and Ukraine both, they said. And that's what was interesting to me, because it was as if China is trying to, at least with this company, they're trying to be even-handed. Again, very interesting. Also, who knows what the U.S. has or hasn't told China privately in terms of, you better not get involved with this, because China, what China has to worry about. Remember, we had somebody Chinese who came on one of our earlier lives who was at least born and raised in China and said, I was raised in China, and the most important thing to China is economics. That's what they care about more than anything. And they've got so much business with the U.S. and with Western Europe and everything else. NATO, Russia, they care about Russia strategically as a balance to the U.S. But when it comes to economics, the Russian economy is not the future. Western Europe is the future. America is the future. A lot of other places, Asia is the future. Russia isn't even the past. Russia's economy just is irrelevant. So, in any case, but I agree with you. I'll pull up Madsen's again. See, B. Madsen. I agree with you. China's been very quiet, and interestingly enough, we've not heard the U.S. talking about China either. So we haven't heard the U.S. complaining that, they're sort of publicly warning China about, you better not help Russia, which makes me wonder if maybe things have calmed down a little bit and China kind of backed off a little, maybe. But that's my guess, because we haven't heard about it. You're right. We've done several TikToks. I can see if there's a YouTube, although as always, YouTube, you guys are chatting amongst yourselves. Oh God, Scott Ritter said that? Scott Ritter said yesterday, so this is, I'll pull this question off of TikTok so you can clear the screen for you guys. Scott Ritter said yesterday, Russia is winning this war and Ukraine should sue for a deal. No one thinks that. There's no one who thinks Russia's winning this. No one normal thinks Russia's winning this war. They just don't. That's just crazy. As I said, like the big issue now is, can Russia lost in the north, can Russia succeed sufficiently, in the east so that they can actually take the Donbass, take the eastern region and annex it, and then use that as a bargaining chip, or not even annex it, but whether they take it and occupy it, use it as a bargaining chip. And it's still up for grabs whether they can even do that. Whether their troops whether, for example, a lot of the troops came from the north by Kyiv, and then they moved them there. Well, they're exhausted. A lot of the troops are coming from the south. They're exhausted. Troops from the east, not exhausted, but they're new and they don't know the territory. So the Russians may be able to sort of pull up from north and south and cut off the Ukrainian troops to the east, which would be really bad, but they may not. Also, what does Ukraine have? Ukraine's got a lot of new weapons now from NATO and the US. Have they been able to get those weapons close enough? Is Ukraine letting Russia advance slowly? Like Russia got a few more towns in the last 24 hours. Are they letting Russia advance slowly, getting ready just to blow the bejesus out of them in a week or two? Who knows? But it is idiotic to say today that Russia's winning this war. I don't think Ukraine's winning this war unless you count not losing winning, of course, which makes sense because we all thought Ukraine was going to lose day 3. So sure, they're winning in that regard. But right now, it's not a stalemate, but it's still kind of, as I use my hands, thank you on TikTok, it's a tie right now, so to speak. And either side can win, put it that way. So no, that's idiotic. What bothers me is it's idiotic for him to even say that. Yeah, that's not terribly helpful, I would say. What else? Lithuania. Arnas, good to see you. Always appreciate the Baltics being here. Excellent. Let me jump on TikTok and grab another question. Remember, guys, the bottom of the TikTok, you can submit your question there in the Q&A. I did see somebody saying that white phosphorus was used. I just, I don't know how to sort of process that though, because I wasn't sure if it's true or not, but I saw a video claiming to be the video, but we don't know if it's true. And I'm just trying to be careful with that. Harvey, let me jump to your question. Apparently the Emirati government has begun openly supporting Russia in the war. Wow. Do you think we'll see more countries come out in support of Russia as the war continues? Specifically ones associated trade heavily with the BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China. Wow. That's interesting. I know Harvey's always got Harvey. I feel like Harvey's my examiner or something. Every night Harvey has to ask me a question that puts me on the spot and like makes me, I feel like I'm back at graduate school. I'm like, oh my God, I'm having to pass my exams with Harvey. Professor Harvey's back. I'm really surprising that the Emirates would be supporting Russia. I know the region was being a pain in the ass to start with. Now, I could see them worrying. I guess when it comes down to it, America isn't going to bomb your oil fields. Russia might, right? I mean, maybe they think Russia's a bigger threat to them than the U.S., but that seems really crazy for me. I will say this too. Sometimes I feel like the U.S., sometimes I feel like we almost don't have a heavy enough hand. I mean, some of you are going to say, obviously, duh. But with some of the oil producing countries, I mean, Kuwait, for starters, we saved Kuwait's ass. Kuwait was eaten up, gobbled up by Saddam Hussein in 1991. That country owes us through eternity. And, I'm always astonished when I see Kuwait's name pop up as one of the countries the U.S. is asking to increase, petroleum production, this kind of stuff. And, it's like we've got to get on our knees, and Kuwait still says, Kuwait? I'm sorry. You literally saved someone's life. They owe you for life. But, and Saudi Arabia, he's playing the hurt puppy game in Saudi Arabia too, which maybe this is all part of, I don't know. But Saudi Arabia, we didn't let him kill, although we kind of did, I guess, but we didn't let him kill the Washington Post journalist Khashoggi and get away with it, although he did get away with it. And he's all upset at us for calling him out on that, and the fact that he's just a corrupt despot. But he has moved Saudi Arabia somewhat freer than it was before, right? Women have more rights than they had before. So I will leave that as my last nuanced comment on Saudi Arabia, that you do get into this weird position where even the guy who's a murderous dictator is better than what's been there before in many ways. So, that's really weird though. I'm going to put up some of the more comments people have on the Emirates here, just to put them up. Brian Hatfield says, Emirati won't go with Russia over the UK. If they get sanctions, if they get sanctioned in the UK, they'll be screwed. I see what you mean. Right. All right. Let me grab another. It is a calm. I think it's been a calmer news day to a degree, I would say. Do war crime accusations mean anything to Putin? I don't think so right now. The question would be whether he at all gets held accountable for them. And I was reading one thing today that surprised me, was that right after the war, we bombed Serbia to save Kosovo, all of that, right? 45 days after the war ended, Milosevic was indicted, I believe, on war crimes. Only 45 days after. So these things can take years, but they also sometimes don't take years. So, that was an interesting thing. Now, Putin would be ostracized. I mean, if he got indicted, for example, he wouldn't turn himself over. He would not be able to travel to much of the world probably in the future because he'd run the risk of being arrested. So I do think I think it's important anyway to hold him accountable, just for even if we can't have the trial, just for sort of justice sake. If the man committed war crimes, and it looks like he has, obviously, he should be held accountable. And at least so that for history's sake, he has been indicted for war crimes. But he's going to say he doesn't care. I don't know if he doesn't care entirely, but I don't think it's going to change. It's not going to change his life though, I think. Okay. So just a little more from Harvey on the UAE, United Arab Emirates question. Oh, thank you, Christy. That was pretty. I like that. There's a lot of UAE money in London. If the UK threatens sanctions, they'd fold very quickly. Okay. I wonder what they're up to. I just wonder what they're up to. Weird. Very weird. Didn't see that. Sorry, Christopher. Just pulling up people's comments because it's kind of interesting. Christopher Costanzo on YouTube says, What do you think of China's ship in Japan's territorial waters? It's been happening a lot lately compared to other years. I was reading about this. I wonder if I don't know if what was I reading about this the other day? I'm forgetting what the dispute is between China and Japan, though, because that's not necessarily Taiwan. but about China asserting itself more. Shoot, I don't know enough about it. I was reading something about this, like I said, like in the last week, and I don't recall. I don't know enough about it. I just don't. Yeah, sorry. I'll try to remember next time. But let me jump to another TikTok question here, guys. 6 o'clock. Yeah, we got another 15 minutes. All right. Like I said, today was not a very. Oh, getting hot here. Was not a very long news day. Beep, 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 beep. I mean, I would hope Ukraine, and Kay Fuller says, do you think Ukraine could take back Crimea someday? I hope. You know, the issue with Crimea is that the Russians came in. Ooh, getting warm now. The Russians came in 2014, invaded, and they stole Crimea, which is the peninsula on the south of Ukraine, jutting into the Black Sea. Stole it, annexed it, claim it's part of Russia now. It's not. No one accepts it, but Russia. And the problem is, though, Ukraine is in that region, for example, right north of Crimea. Ukraine is still fighting. That's where Kherson is, which is the town that they've occupied, and they've occupied most of the town, but it seems like not all of it. Mykolaiv, town they haven't occupied, but a lot of battles going on. And then if you go further west, was there a question? Okay. Froze on TikTok. TikTok froze? Okay, let me go off and come back on. Weird. All right. Very strange on TikTok. Okay. Starting TikTok again. I didn't even touch TikTok. That's weird. It just does that sometimes. Very hard to know why it gets upset on TikTok. Hang on. Weird. Okay. Well, I'll continue with you guys then. Thank you for letting me know on the TikTok thing. That's weird. Yeah. I mean, the Kuriles, yeah. Okay. Sorry. What was I? Sorry, TikTok. I didn't touch a thing, and Mom didn't call, so I have no idea what threw the TikTokers off. That was weird. Yeah, Mom did not call from the other room. That's cute. Somebody said. Wasn't Mom. Mom's in the other room. But no, that was weird. The only thing is, did I release the question? But that shouldn't have frozen TikTok. I don't know. TikTok, and look what we were just talking about. I don't want to say anything, but you all made me talk about the C word, and what happens? My TikTok feed disappears. That's all I'm saying. Don't make me talk about the C word again. All right. TikTok is back on again. So we're back. It wasn't Mom. Yeah, it could have been Russia or somebody else. I do have a Twitter account. Hold on. My Twitter account is simply my last name. I will even post it on. That's my Twitter account. I'm posting it on YouTube. Thank you for welcoming back with the crown, the CHINA word. You guys made me talk about them, and what happens? My TikTok freezes. I'm just saying. Hopefully we're getting folks coming back. That was a little strange. You know what? The worst part, though, is it probably wiped out your questions. So feel free on TikTok to enter your questions again in the Q&A, because I'll bet you it knocked out the questions when that froze. I'm on Reddit, but I don't use Reddit a lot. Maybe I should use it more. Let me see. Masha's great. Let me see what Mosaic. While we're waiting for thank you for the flowers on TikTok. I need those. It drives me nuts when it freezes. Yeah, I didn't do anything. It just froze. Okay, well, let me see. Let me just look and see if the questions are still there. Are they still there? Oh, the questions are still there. That's great. Okay, good. The questions on TikTok somehow survived. God knows how. Let me respond to Mosaic Crone's comment here first. According to Masha Gessen's great in New York. The larger his ego gets, the bigger who he's saving Russia from must be. Oh, I did see that quote the other day. Yeah, Putin has been at war with America via Ukraine since 2014, a hot war, not a cold war. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, the bigger Putin's ego gets, the bigger the enemy he needs to find, in essence. Yeah, that's interesting. All righty, let me jump to the TikTok questions then. All right, well, since you guys are still here, I'm glad to see. Let me see here. Can't help you apply to Georgetown because I don't know yet. All right, guys. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on there. The Moldova thing is very strange. Like I said, I can't figure out what's going on in Moldova, and I don't know why. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know why Russia is doing what it's doing. It seems like Russia is attacking Moldova and trying to cause a justification for Russia invading, but I don't know why. I don't know why it matters, and I can't figure out what their strategic significance is because, if Russia wanted to invade Moldova or if Russia wanted to take, actually, and I saw an update on this, it's a lot of people were saying Russia had 12,000 troops in Moldova. So as I'm rubbing my nose, thank you for that, Grandma. But the actual number is more like 1,700 troops or something, 1,700, which is nothing. Nothing. So if Russia wanted to move those troops into Ukraine, it could do it anyway. Like, it doesn't need a justification. It's already at war. So I don't get the Moldova thing. I really don't. I don't get what's going on with that. Yeah. And I saw that, yes, the Russia's saying that the attacks are coming from Ukraine. The Transnistrian government claimed the same thing today. Oh, the Ukrainians attacked us. BS. I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. The question is, what does Russia find of use here in terms of getting Moldova, involved in the war and Transnistria involved? I haven't found anybody who's given a very good explanation. Oh, watching from Ukraine. Oh, Dior Vova. 2 Ukrainians. Hi from Ukraine. Well, I'm guessing you're Ukraine. You're at least in Ukraine. All right, folks on TikTok, send your sunflower love to the 2 people in Ukraine. There we go. Carol, you were the first. Appreciate it. And Kathy. But let me pull up the question here from David Sewer. That's a cool last name, David. While folks are giving the little sunflower love to our Ukrainians, does it make sense to make personal sanctions for soldiers who are fighting for Putin? For example, not having the option to visit any Western country in the future, maybe even their children. Potentially, I guess the question is how low you get. And what I mean by that is a lot of these Russian troops, thank you for that on TikTok, I wonder whether a lot of these Russian troops are ever going to leave Russia anyway, right? A lot of these guys are in the West. In America, we'd call them blue collar. Maybe you'd call them working class. You know what I mean? Meaning they're probably people from the farm, from small towns, regions that are poorer. They're just not people who are planning on visiting Paris someday or London. I mean, they'd love to, I'm sure, but I don't see it happening. So I wonder, it depends who you're sanctioning. Right. But I think if you're talking people higher up in the military, right, once you start talking people who might have some money, then they love going to Paris. Right. They love going to Nice and to the Côte d'Azur and all of that, in Italy and London. I mean, all of that stuff kicks in then. So for that, anybody who has any kind of financial largesse like that, then I think sanctioning them has an impact because they go, oh my God, how could I never go to London again? How could I never go to, or even better, my children, how could my children never be able to go to Paris? But that's going to be a very specific set of Russians, and it's going to be people with money. It's not going to be regular soldiers. So, having said that, why not? I mean, if you've got soldiers that have done this stuff, you might as well sanction them so that they never can get out of the country. But my guess is a lot of them probably aren't going to, I did see this, Michaela. I always say Michaela because I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. The Gazprom Bank executive has fled Russia apparently to join Ukrainian territorial defense. Yeah, I saw that today. Now, what I didn't know was whether the Gazprom Bank, Russian bank, whether he actually was a Ukrainian or not, and that's why he did it. But I saw the story and I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. I just don't know enough about it. But yeah, I mean, I saw it. I thought it was very cool, but that's about it. Oh, you have been doing Ukrainian and Duolingo. Good for you. Let me pull up another question here. When the war will end is hard to say. I mean, it could go on for a very long time. And partially what could go on for a very long time is imagine that Russia wins. Does the war end when Russia wins? I don't think so. I think if Russia wins, then the war is guaranteed to go on for a long time because then NATO will start supplying Russia. No, NATO will start supplying Ukraine. I'm getting tired. NATO will start supplying Ukraine guerrilla weapons, basically the kind of things we did in Afghanistan, more stingers, more weapons to shoot from afar to try to, get the Russian troops. So I don't see the war ending anytime soon in that regard. The question becomes, if Russia doesn't do well in the East right now in the next few weeks and Ukraine's able to push them back, then what happens? I mean, to some degree, I still almost wonder, like, you need Putin overthrown, because otherwise Putin's not going to want to settle. I mean, if Putin's getting beaten, is he really going to want to settle and say, okay, well, I lost, knowing that it could be the end of his government? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the war can go on for a long time unless Putin disappears. Franny McDowell, I know you say Putin threatens nuclear war every other day, but what is your opinion on North Korean threats towards the U.S.? Do you think North Korea is more serious? I don't think North Korea is more serious. North Korea is crazier, and I mean that legitimately, which makes them more dangerous, right? I still think there's enough people in Russia at the highest levels, including Putin himself, where he knows he can't get into a nuclear war with us because we're all going to lose, right? He's not going to win it. Kim, that's a really messed. I mean, that is a dictatorship, right? North Korea. I mean, that's a mess. And I think he's crazy. And I think he would potentially use his nukes. I think he's nuts. Maybe he'd use them on the way out the door or something. Like if he thought he was losing power, he'd use them. I don't know. But it's the North Korea thing worries me. But as I said, it's not the level of the language, the volume of the language. It's because they're nuts in North Korea. And it's such a Stalinist dictatorship. Whereas Russia, ruby slippers. Thank you, Pamela. That was cute. Whereas in Russia, he's just bluffing. It's just that. I mean, I hate to say it because I realize our defense experts are saying, it's not a joke when a country like Russia makes these kind of comments. You've got to take it seriously, and it's dangerous and all of that. And I agree. Thank you for the origami. I agree, but I still think he's bluffing. As I said, that cartoon said, yes, Vladimir, you've mentioned for the 9 week in a row in class that you've got nuclear weapons. We hear you. At some point, it's just kind of a joke that he keeps saying it. It shows that he's weak. It's a temper tantrum. I've got nuclear weapons. I know, Vlad, you told us. I've got nuclear weapons. Yeah, Vlad, I know. We know you told us. It's just, yeah. And again, we've got nukes too. He's not going to attack. I mean, he's just not going to attack. It's the end of the world if he attacks. And I guess my final point there is, he knows it's the end of the world. Like, we know it's the end of the world if he attacks, but he knows it's the end of the world if he attacks. And that's why he's not going to do it. Diego Barasa, I don't know if you were trying to put a question there. If you meant to put a question, there you go. I see it now. I was going to say, feel free to put it below. There you go. Diego, do you know if the Su-35 that was shot down at the beginning of the invasion was recovered by allies? I don't. Was it like an I was going to say, wasn't there one recently, or was that like an Su-34? I'm not up on all my Russian planes, but there was another plane that they're saying was shot down, but I think it was an Su-34. I have no idea. I'm sorry, I can't tell you more on this, but I have no idea. Now, planes, thank you, Dun. I saw that on TikTok. When planes are shot down, can they usually be recovered? Oh, I see what you mean. Are you saying in terms of electronics and things like that on the plane? Maybe that's what you mean. Okay. I don't know. No, I just don't know. I'm sorry. Antenna bomb. Okay. Where is antenna bomb question? Starry Night is mentioning a question about an antenna bomb or antenna bombing. Are you saying the bombing of the antenna in Kherson or wherever it was? I was reading about that today and I was watching video, but let me see. Somebody tell me. Let me see. I'm just looking here. Okay. I'm not finding it. Can somebody reiterate what the deal is with the with this antenna bombing you're talking about? Boop, 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 boop. Oh, there we go. Yes, I did hear about it today. I saw some video too. You know, it's funny. I was going to mention. Okay, sorry. Somebody was Vez Cukru Buj Laska. Oh boy. I'm not sure what that is, but hi from Ukraine. Have you heard? Ukrainians asking us a question. Give some sunflowers. Ukrainians are weighing in. Have you heard about a missile strike on occupied Kherson, a Ukrainian town in the south there, that hit antennas that were broadcasting Russian channels there? Yes. It's funny. I was going to do a post on it, and I even downloaded the video that there was two videos. One video shows, so what what the Ukrainians are saying happened, but there seems to be some video proving it. There is video of some kind of a strike, rocket, missile, something in Kherson, this town that's occupied by the Russians. And this is the town where they keep talking about they want to do a what do you call it? A plebiscite or whatever. They want to have a referendum to join Russia, right? It's a ridiculous thing, right north of Crimea there. So the first thing is there's video of somebody doing an attack in the town and the thing blowing up. Then there's video of the TV stations and somebody clicking the TV stations, and it's like Russia 1, Russia 2 or whatever, and them being blank, like there's nothing there. So that it looks like, from what we were told, the Russians, when they occupied the town, one of the first things they did was start, I don't know how they did it, was start transmitting, Russian news to like the Russian news channels to the poor Ukrainians. So that's all they could watch. And it looks like the Ukrainians took out the communications tower to stop them from just giving all this propaganda BS to the Ukrainians. So yeah, that's what I heard. And I saw the video. I'm guessing it's true, especially since I saw the video of literally the person flicking the channels. So very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. But yes, I did hear that. Thank you. Good question, Jim, about Greece. Greece is typically, he's asking, is Greece on Ukraine's side or Russia's side? Okay, Greece is a member of NATO, so you would hope they'd be on Ukraine's side. Greece is in the region. Greece is traditionally friendly to Russia, friendlier than we like, at least in the US. What is interesting today, for example, the Greek prime minister had a phone call with his counterpart in Bulgaria, where the Greeks pledged to help the Bulgarians get around the Russian natural gas sanctions. Thank you for that, for the lights on TikTok, to get around the natural gas sanctions by providing some, I think it was liquefied natural gas or something, to the Bulgarians to help them out. That's the kind of thing that Russia wouldn't be terribly happy with, which makes me think that, Greece is being good. I have not seen a heck of a lot else about Greece on this, but nonetheless, that's at least a good sign. But you don't hear a lot about Greece in this whole thing. You're not hearing a lot about Greek weapons, or thank you for that, or anything else. So I don't know. So let me see. Oh, okay, there is more here. Let me get to Logan's, and this may be the last question, unless anybody buys another super chat. Of course, I will always answer the super chats, like I said. Otherwise, this will be the last question, and then we will hang out for about 10 minutes and chat amongst ourselves. Fun stuff, non-Ukraine stuff. So feel free to hang for that too. Logan Demsic. Interesting name. Sounds Slavic, Eastern-ish. What happens to Russia in terms of war crimes if Putin dies? Are the war crimes against Putin or Russia? Interesting. Did he choose this time to attack because he knows he's sick and will die soon? He's been in a big hurry. He has been in a big hurry. The war crimes, that's interesting. Oh, there you are. I'm sorry, real quick. I see the Ukrainian popped up. Here he is. It means, my nickname means no sugar, please. Bez cuker. Oh, cukru. Okay. Budlaska. I don't know how to say please Budlaska. Okay. Sorry, real quick, Logan. We're chatting with the Ukrainian here. Yeah, I had studied Russian for a year, so I can read the language, but I know Russian. So like, please, I would think, pожалуйста or spasiba would be thanks, I guess. I would say, yeah. And sugar, I think, was it Zachar, I think, the Russian. You guys confuse me. Every word is different in Ukrainian. You confuse me. But that's funny. Okay. Anyway, hello. Glad to answer. Or I tried to answer at least. So Logan, the war crimes are against individuals. Are against individuals. And the question becomes which individuals you can try. We talked about this before as far as Putin. Getting up to Putin's level can be very difficult because you've got to almost prove a chain of command or something, meaning somebody commits a war crime on the street. They kill a civilian with their hands tied behind the backs. First, you've got to prove that they shot the civilian with their hands tied behind the back. Then you've got to prove that whoever's above them somehow sanctioned it, right? Their commander, whoever it is. Then you've got to prove that the general or somebody gave them an order. Then you've got to prove that the general overseeing the entire effort. Then you've got to prove the minister of defense. Then you've got to prove Putin. And you've got to prove, now once you get to Putin's level, maybe it isn't that Putin ordered you to kill a civilian in Bucha, but maybe it's that Putin gave orders in general, making it clear to his generals that you do exactly what you did in Syria. You kill as many civilians as possible, and you show those Ukrainians who's who. If you can prove that, then you can hold Putin responsible for every war crime potentially, because he made it clear to the military that they should do this, right? The question is, I mean, if Putin dies, then it's like any other prosecution, right? If you're going after a murderer and the murderer dies, then you're kind of out of luck. The case goes away, right? So that would be the first problem there. They wouldn't go after Russia. Okay, here's how you could get around that. The Ukrainians, I believe, in the last couple of weeks were asking the Russians, and I did see your guys' other questions, so I've got them starred. I will get to them next after this, don't worry. The Ukrainians were asking the Russians to declare, were asking the Americans to declare Russia a state sponsor of terrorism. And even though the sanctions that would bring were not much different than the sanctions we're doing already, what was interesting about that is it would mean that money that we froze from Russia's bank accounts, could be available for lawsuits against Russia. So against Russia, well, A, lawsuits against Russia, and B, Russian diplomats could potentially be the veil of diplomatic immunity could be lifted from them, and they could themselves be subject to lawsuits. So in other words, you're a family in Ukraine, and you've had your home destroyed, you've had war crimes committed, you lost a family member to war crimes. You could sue Putin and his, you could sue Lavrov, you could sue the top generals, you could sue a lot of different people, and you could go after those other people potentially, even if whether or not they're guilty of war crimes, if you can prove it in some way, right? Well, let me do a couple things. One, if you can prove it in some way, which is hard, but if the war crimes can be proven against them, maybe you don't even need a war crimes tribunal if you can get the evidence in a regular court. That's the first thing. Second of all, if you can prove their guilt and you can't get them, you can go after the Russian money that's been frozen. Right now, you can't go after the Russian money. But that's something that, anyway, I don't know if that's a bit of a tangent from what you asked, but I think, yeah, you would need to, if it was Putin and Putin dies, then you can't go after Putin. So you'd have to go after somebody else who was also empowered, who empowered the war crime to happen. As for why Putin's doing this, I don't know if he's dying, but he's getting older. And let's face it, I mean, when you get 69 years old, you're starting to think about, even in your 50s, you start to think about your legacy. He's thinking about his legacy. He's been in power for almost 20 years now, right? I think he's trying to think of how to leave his mark, and his mark is reconstituting the Soviet Empire. I mean, I think that's it. Okay, there were a few more here. Okay, David, I got yours. Franny, Bez Tsukru. That corrects me up. Tyson Ann, good to see you again. Okay, Tyson is simply, but I think kind of agreeing with you. I think Putin is dying and he wants to go out with a bang. That's why I don't doubt him going nuclear. The only problem with Putin going nuclear is I think he wants to go out with a bang, but I think his bang means putting Russia on the map, not literally eliminating Russia from the map. And that's where the nuclear thing kicks in. You don't go nuclear in terms of literally, big nuclear bombs without knowing that it's going to be the end of the world. And that doesn't help. That's not the kind of bang he's looking for. I don't think Putin's crazy. I think he wants the bang where you will remember Putin's name and you will remember I was the greatest Russian czar of all time, right? No one's going to think he's the greatest Russian czar if literally he got Russia in a nuclear war that Russia lost. And they will lose. I mean, we will all lose if there's a nuclear war. No one's going to win that one. So that's my downside on the nuclear thing. I think it is an explanation as to why he's doing all of this craziness with Ukraine. Yeah. I think he wanted to annex all of Ukraine and be like, I got more territory for Russia. And we finally eliminated Ukraine, who he doesn't like anyway. That's my guess. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm disagreeing with you on the nukes, but not on the Ukraine war overall. Harvey, thoughts? Let me just, pull this up, go back to the main questions to make sure I don't miss anything else here. God, Putin's net worth, Jesus. Sorry, I'm seeing Jim mentioned that hundreds of billions I've seen. I mean, crazy amounts they're talking. Harvey, thoughts on Russia investigating into reports that the British SAS have been deployed to Western Ukraine with the British Ministry of Defense responding, "We don't comment on special forces." Oh my God. Okay, Harvey, you beat me. You found something I hadn't heard about. The only thing is here that this could be much ado about nothing, because it could be that Russia, once again, has created a false story. Russia lies. Russia creates a false story saying, "Ooh, the British, the British special forces are operating in Western Ukraine," and then they go to the defense ministry, and the defense ministry says, "We don't comment on special forces," knowing that the defense ministry doesn't comment on special sources, right? So they almost know they're setting them. They know they're setting them up to not respond in principle. So that would be my thought. I think the Russians are doing it just to create, an appearance. Now, having said that, Boris Johnson's been such a good ally of Ukraine. Maybe this is Boris's way of going, F you, where he's like, okay, you're going to start rumors about us being in Ukraine. Then I'm going to sit there and say no comment to freak you out a little bit. So now you're going, wait a minute, So it could be Boris Johnson screwing with Putin back. But having said that, I wouldn't be surprised, as we said, if somebody is there, whether it's the U.S. or Russian or somebody else, special forces being there, I wouldn't be surprised. So anyway, all right, guys, I'm going to call it quits. We're going to hang for 10 minutes anyway, or 5-10 minutes. Since I went 10 minutes into this aspect of it, but no more political stuff. I hope I didn't miss any of your. If I missed your questions, they'll tell me. Then I will, of course, do one of those. Oh, did you just throw in a? Oh, you just wanted to say thanks. Okay, thank you for that, B. Thanks for this and all the info you provided us and the bit of humor. Thank you. I appreciate that. Sweet of you. I was a little afraid you're going to have a question, but I would have answered it. But all right, guys. Yeah, let's. This is where we just hang out for a few minutes and talk about like fun stuff, so to speak. Okay, Raymond, you threw something in. I'll check it out. Hypothetical: if NATO ends up getting involved and forced Russia out of Ukraine, would NATO take it as far as to take back Crimea? Why not? I mean, why not? If NATO's involved already, and if NATO is firing against Russian troops, and NATO is just that, blowing up Russian troops and blowing up Russian aircraft and pushing them out of Ukraine, why not go the whole way and push them out of Crimea as well? The only circumstance I would say maybe not is, can we do it? How hard would it be to do? Right? How many forces would it take? How much time would it take? How many deaths would there be? I mean, that's the big discussion. The other discussion might be, is it safer in the long run because there's that small chance of Russia using nukes or something? Is it safer to go back to the borders right before the war where Russia held Crimea, right? I mean, there's that kind of a discussion, but I would think there's a really good argument for saying, why don't we just push them back all the way? Why not? No. So in any case, my bottom line is it's going to be a strategic question as to why and why not. Why is obvious. Why not is how hard it's going to be, how costly it's going to be in terms of manpower, money, time, weapons, and whether we expect any kind of crazy blowback. So that's what I'm going to say. Oh, and I saw Be Kind push the fundraiser. Thank you. So just update, folks, we are at over. See, I didn't even yawn. My first yawn today. Now that we're in the closing section, we are up to $7,000 on our latest fundraiser, a little over 7,000. I sent it to Vlad. Vlad had a lot of it. I had 3,000 of it, I think I had, because you had put through my PayPal, that I've sent to Vlad today. He had 4,000 on his own. You guys sent him. They've already bought the first car. What we're doing is, I'm not doing it. What they're doing in Ukraine, I'm just helping them with your guys' gifts, is they have Kharkiv is the second largest. A lot of you probably know this, but Kharkiv is the second largest city, bombed just the bejesus out of it by the Russians. They've been bombing it for 2 months now. There's a lot of concern that Kharkiv could end up just like Mariupol, the city in the south that they bombed, and there's nothing there basically at this point. But Kharkiv is their second largest city, 1.5 million people, size of Philadelphia. I mean, huge deal. If Kharkiv gets leveled, big problems with food there now. A lot of people are either living in the subway as a bomb shelter, but they've been in the subway now for 4 to 6 months or whatever. And anyway, I will tell you how much the car is. Previous donations you guys gave, like $40,000. Previously, a lot of it went, well, I detailed in a video, but a big chunk of it went to these food organizations, either to buying food or to giving money to these groups where they could buy food, where they're making food and putting it in separate individual packets and delivering it to people at their homes. Seniors, for example, aren't leaving their homes, or they're setting up like soup kitchens in the subways. And one of the videos I put up literally showed in one of the subways how they set up a big soup counter with food and everything. And the women would come up with their Tupperware and fill their food to bring back to their families. So what Vlad and company are doing now for Kharkiv, he's from Kharkiv, is the Kharkiv government asked all the food people, the food organizations, to stop buying food from the local stores because they want the local groceries to be available for citizens that are still at home and stuff if they can. So initially, your previous donations, for example, Vlad bought a ton of food. I mean, literally like a ton of food. I forgot how much it was, but it was $1,000 worth of food practically, and sent it through the post office. But that was like 2 weeks of through the post office. And there's concerns now about the trains and everything else. The Russians starting to bomb the trains. So the next idea was to get 2 cars. And basically, most people's cars have been shot up at this point. Because I asked him, he said nobody has cars left. They've all been shot up, at least from out there. To get 2 used cars that are big, like minivans, and he showed me the one today is a minivan. Go and buy as much food as they can to cram into the minivan, drive it to Kharkiv, get the food to the food organization, and then give the minivans, at least for the rest of the war, to the food organization so they can use the vans to deliver twice as much food or whatever it is. They got the first minivan today. I don't know the price on it because what Vlad was saying was the combined price for 2 of them being used is $8,000 to $10,000 for the 2 of them. They're hoping to get it. I think, and actually he walked me through some of the fees. It looks like the price is $8,000, but because of all the different fees you have to pay, with Ukraine, it's complicated. The total could get it to around $10,000. So that's where we're trying to raise $10,000. Any extra money will go towards the food itself. I asked Vlad because they got I will tell you this just so you guys know. This is how on the up and up Vlad is. He got the 1 car today. For 2 cars. The 1 car, he only got the 1 car first today. He's going to get the second. And I said, okay, Vlad, but how are you going to do this? Because we've only got 7,000 so far. You said you need 2,000 to get the 2 cars. So I said, are you thinking of just doing 1 car then? And now let's say the car was $5,000. We'll use the 2,000 we've got to buy food? Or what were you thinking? And he said, no. I'm getting the 2 cars and then I'm buying the food. And if I have to, I'm going to use my own money. And I said, Vlad, what are you doing? So Vlad is insistent. He's going to buy the second car anyway. And he's going to buy all the food to fill the cars. And they've got volunteers to drive them to Kharkiv. So that's what's happening. But as I said, the cars are going to cost about $4,000 to $5,000 per car because it's a used car, but it's a used car that works. And they're minivans. Like I said, the picture today, I've got a video. I'll put it up tomorrow so you guys can see. But he did a video just walking you through and showing you oh, great. Now my dog has to go out. All right, Sash, give me a minute. My dog is giving me the I need to go out signal here. So I may wrap it up with this. But in any case, that's what's up with that. But I just wanted to give you guys an update on it. I'll do a video tomorrow and I'll fill you in on this, but I thought it was sweet and a little bit crazy that Vlad's planning on spending this out of his pocket if he has to. So, Vlad has worked for 5 or 6 years with my nephew. He's, works for his company and Vlad's been he's from Ukraine. So he's been based in Ukraine and Anthony's been working with him all this time. And initially Vlad himself needed help for his family. All of the money was frozen. The company basically owed him back pay and couldn't get it to him because of the war, because there's some crazy intermediary you've got to use when you hire contractors legally in Ukraine. And I mean, it was a lot of money that they were owed to him that he couldn't get. And literally they were in Western Ukraine and he ran out of money. So you guys initially helped Vlad with the money. And then Vlad had been helping other families, individual families who needed help. And then he kept thinking bigger and saying, hey, let's raise money for the soup kitchen. Initially we weren't telling you the names of these places because I was worried about it. The soup kitchen, I showed you guys pictures and video, but I was a little afraid of telling you the name because I was constantly afraid they were going to get bombed. The name of one of the soup kitchens is called Kharkiv Mir, which means world and peace both. I'm assuming in this case it means peace. And there's another one as well. Okay, you know what? I've got to sign off because I kid you not, my dog is having to pee. Anyway, guys, I'm sorry. On TikTok, you can go to my profile, look at the beacons link, click that and it'll show you how to donate. And I would appreciate if you can. Otherwise, Vlad's picking up the difference. But if you guys can, we only need 3,000 more. That'd be lovely. And even with the 3,000 more, apparently he's still planning on buying the food himself. God bless him. So if you give more than that, they're going to just use it to buy food for these aid organizations. So thank you. All right, guys, I'm going to hang up on you on YouTube. TikTok hopefully is catching up shortly because my dog's going to pee on the carpet. Bye, guys. All right, I'm